Welcome into SportsZone All Access here on this February the 12th. Couple of days away from Valentine's Day, which also marks the middle of the month, which means we're literally almost halfway through the month of February.
So bizarre. It
is the funniest month of the year because January, like I said, it's kind of cold around here. There's not much for holidays, so it kind of can drag on sometimes.
But it's warm out. It's been warm out.
That helped a little bit. It did help in January. Then we had that really cold spell in January too, and I felt like that week was a long week.
Yeah.
And now we have a warm February, and it's only 28 days, and it is just cruising by because we have state tournaments starting this weekend. We have state gymnastics and state wrestling duels. Kelsey will be at state gymnastics in Mitchell's new high school gym. That'll be fun. And then
thrilled.
Next week, state wrestling. And it all starts this weekend. And then we're going to talk all about that on Friday's show. Now, to lead today's show, we're actually going to bring up, it's not an old topic. It's kind of a current topic this week. It happened over the weekend. Monday was really when we started really talking about it. But we know this, right? The NDSU Bison are on the move to the Mountain West. They're going to play in the FBS. We know they paid $17.5 million to the conference. That was the most impressive part, honestly. I had somebody ask me about it yesterday, and I said, honestly, the most impressive part is not only did they say, yeah, we'll pay $17.5, but that they had that lying around somewhere.
They've been tucking away cash. They've been ready for this.
Clearly, yeah, it's a lot of money. That usually they put towards their NIL or their rosters or their athletics or their facilities. They found it somewhere. And so what's kind of interesting, what we're doing new now is conversations with SDSU's AD, Justin Sell, today. Tomorrow we talk with USD's AD, John Schemmel. And then we come up with stories just to kind of see how they're reacting because it does, people think it's about NDSU, but Kelsey, it really affects the teams left in the Missouri Valley just as much.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought. I mean, yes, the focus is going to be on how the Bison perform in the Mountain West based off of the dominance that they've had in the Missouri Valley, but I'm really curious to see how this shakes up the conference as it stands without the Bison. I think that there is opportunity for a team to claim that said dominance, or the playing field kind of levels out. And I don't know which one people maybe would prefer. I think a level, even playing field where it's already a really tough conference to play in. But there's not that looming factor of what NDSU has been for so long. I would be really excited to see that. I think that would be a lot more competitive. Not that the conference isn't already super competitive.
I feel like the last few years, NDSU has been a little more down to earth.
Yes.
What they did.
Except in the game of the highlights we're rolling right now.
Yeah, that was a bad game.
That was not the case.
We know how bad SDSU was struggling down that stretch.
Right.
But, in the 2010s, yes, what NDSU did to the Valley, to the whole FCS was on another level.
Yeah.
Now it's going to see a change. And one big change is the Dakota Marker game. Mm-hmm. How's that going to look? Well, Justin Sell shared some of his thoughts.
I think for me, I've been here 17 years. I think we played them 22 times in football in that time. The Dakota Marker game is one of the best FCS games historically. It's helped us get college game day here to think about trying to figure out how do we continue to play them down the road and what's that look like. But, missing that game.
Yeah, you're going to miss that game if it can happen. And so I don't think it's the last time these two will ever meet.
No.
It's just impossible. They're literally 2 hours separated by I-29. There's no way they won't do that, especially with their rich history. Playing this game for so many years. But if you only play it every few years, is it still for the Dakota Marker? Is it still considered that right? How does this move kind of change it?
Football aside, too, the Dakota Marker makes these schools a lot of money. And in the age of NIL and rev share, where they are now responsible for paying their athletes quite a bit, especially their football program, I would be remiss for them to stop it completely.
Yeah, it's a game that both teams are guaranteed to sell out the stadium.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. You know, because both teams have good fan bases that travel. So what NDSU doesn't fill up, SDSU fans will fill, and vice versa in Brookings, right? And
Well,
so,
not to mention the TV contracts and what has come about for some of the biggest Dakota markers that they've had in terms of TV coverage. So it will be interesting.
well, they haven't. They haven't had any national media coverage except for the last 2 years.
Yes.
Finally, which was a good agreement with the Missouri Valley that said, "Hey, ESPN, we'll give you ESPN Plus rights, but you need to give us some games." You know, and this year I think it got on ESPNU. I think last year was on ESPN2. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It will be an adjustment. I look forward to seeing this fall to see just how it does affect it. Let's talk college basketball. The USD men, switching gears to the team down in Vermilion, had a good game against North Dakota. Looked like they were going to beat the third place team in the Summit League standings. And then a great second half by the boys from North Dakota brought them right back into it. They scored 46 second half points, overcame an 11-point halftime deficit. By the way, there's a big flush by Cam Fens. We're getting used to seeing that. And
he
at the end of the day,
loves the flush.
Yeah, he does.
All day long,
He does. And at the end of the day, North Dakota wins it by 72-71 in a really good game. And it just continues to show USD hanging with pretty much anyone that they're battling with right now.
Yeah, they certainly are. And I think it was a trickier one, especially, and I didn't see the second half in its entirety, but in the first half, USD was getting North Dakota out and forcing them to take the looks that they wanted them to take, the most challenging ones. What gets tricky is if they start to hit those shots, because there's not too much you can do about that. But in the first half, USD was able to hit their shots, and that's kind of all you can ask for. A 1-point loss to the third-ranked team in the conference is definitely not something to hang your hat on. Obviously, they want that win at home, but it continues to amaze me watching this team. They continue to get better every game, even in losses, which I think is something that is really hard to do with the amount of change that they've seen this year.
I mean, they weren't better in this game. That's something to point out. I mean, offensively, very consistent, 37-34. You're going to take that and feel good about that.
Right.
But 26 and 46 defensively. You give up 46 points and a half. Unless the team scored 10 points in the first half, you're probably going to lose that basketball game.
And it's funny because watching in the first half, there was a little bit of a shift towards the back end where, looking at the bench, you kind of start to see Eric Peterson shaking his head like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. But Jordan Crawford triple there. They're able to hit a couple big buckets down the stretch of that first half that kind of help alleviate that.
Well, they didn't hit many
struggle.
Triples. That was one thing that hurt them. 4 for 25 from beyond the arc.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we can talk about how their defense has been, whatever. They had 3 chances in the final 15 seconds to hit a game-winning 3, then had a no board, had a look from there, had another tip back. They missed all 3 of them, so they still had the chance. It means they're right there too. And
and that's the tricky thing, because you see them, obviously it ebbs and flows, but they've been playing good basketball for the most part. And then you see those 3 buckets that they had at the tips of their fingers, and you're like...
And that happens, and sometimes you just miss, right? And so, it's interesting. And at what point do we stop talking about them as a cool story and start saying, this is still a good basketball team? You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, every time we talk about them, it's like, oh, well, look what they're doing with what they have. It's like, okay, let's stop talking about that. They're 4th in the conference, just about beat number 3. They took St. Thomas down to the wire, who's number 2. Almost beat North Dakota State. Let's quit talking about them being hurt, and let's start talking about them as a real basketball team.
Well, that's what they are.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
They're here. They're competing, and even in the loss last night, they still showed that.
All right, let's talk SDSU men. They got a big game. They are 4-6, 7th in the conference, but 1 game back of Denver, who they now play tonight. Denver's been a weird team, has had some tough losses this year, but has also beaten North Dakota State and North Dakota. And those two teams, North Dakota State only has one loss in the conference, North Dakota only 3. So Denver's a team that can play some basketball, and it's a tricky place to play, too. It's long travel into elevation. So,
altitude's no joke.
we'll see how the Jacks, but this is a big one for them. They've lost 2 in a row, trying to avoid 3 in a row. And if they lose this game, will really be kind of cementing themselves more towards the 7 seed than trying to creep up into that log jam at 4, 5, and 6 right now.
Right, and we've spoken so much about the log jam here and on our Countdown to Summit League show, but that loss makes the layout of the bracket a little bit easier, truthfully.
It will.
And as if you're the Jackrabbits, that's not something you want to do. Obviously, you want to win games, but you don't want to make it easy for anybody on any given night, regardless of if they're even playing you, right? And that's what these teams are facing at this point in the season. So it's a big one for the Jacks.
They beat Denver in Brookings by 8 just a few weeks ago. SDSU women welcome in North Dakota, and this is another chance for the SDSU women to maybe continue their winning ways. North Dakota 3-8. They did win their last game, but that means they started 2-8 in conference play. They're 3-7 in their last 10 are the Fighting Hawks. While SDSU 8-2, right? Came off that big win over St. Thomas, had a get-right game up in St. Paul, then got Saturday off last week. So they're well rested. Now they're at home playing a struggling North Dakota team. A team that last time they played them, the Jacks just shot the lights out of the arena up in North Dakota, 99-47 the final there. Another chance for South Dakota State to continue to put pressure on USD in that top of the standings.
This is a game that the Jacks are going to want to leave no room for question. You have to come out of the gate firing away, because even though they're playing a team that is inherently struggling this season, it's still about maintaining that consistency and playing a full 60 minutes of basketball.
Yep, absolutely. And we know Aaron Johnson's been talking about
right,
that.
And when you're playing those tougher teams, that's going to come into play a whole lot more if you're doing it in these lighter games, or so to say.
No doubt. And then USD women welcoming Kansas City to Vermilion tonight. Kansas City at 4-7. They've lost 2 in a row and are 3-7 in their last 10. USD won 4 in a row, second longest win streak in the conference, 8-2 in their last 10. The Coyotes looking to, SDSU can put that pressure on, but USD a half game ahead of them can stay that half game ahead of them with a win tonight. Well, we're going to talk some hockey next. That's right, the Fighting Wiener Dogs are back this weekend. We'll talk about that next. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access here, and we'll continue our conversation into the Fighting Wiener Dogs. Yes, they come back once every year. It's a tradition. Every time we do this story, we talk with the Stampede, and their general manager goes, we started it several years ago and never thought it would get into what it is. Last year, they set the record for most spectators at a hockey event in South Dakota history. And it was a crazy game that went down too. Goalie fights, stuff like that. Travis Fossing previewed this year's Wiener Dog game. Let's listen in to the story he had on Wednesday.
As the team practices on the ice below, a trio of dachshunds are making themselves at home high above at the Premier Center. Axel, Claire, and Timmy are 3 of the 30 adoptable dogs you'll see during Wiener Dog Night.
We get a lot of breeder release dogs. Some people don't like that fact so much. We're not making room for the breeder to get more dogs. What we're doing is giving these dogs, like little Miss Claire here, a chance at a second life to actually become a family pet.
While 50 dogs will race between periods, Dakota Dachshund Rescue is hosting a meet and greet for animals in desperate need of a permanent home.
They're scared and they've never been in a home setting before. Some of them have never been outside before.
Founder Diane Wade says the dogs are a work in progress, though it doesn't take much to win them over.
Consistent, good food and water and somebody that loves them, and they're not allowed to just hide in a corner You know, we make them sit on our lap on the couch and they go, wow, I can be on a couch.
But it's an evening that extends beyond raising awareness.
Fundraisers with Stampede have brought in a lot of help over the years.
The Fighting Wiener Dogs will wear specialty jerseys, with the money raised benefiting Dakota Dachshund Rescue.
We don't sell the game-worn jerseys anywhere else, so this is your opportunity to take home a piece of history.
Wiener Dog Night is now in its 19th year, and so is the partnership between the Stampede and Dakota Dachshund Rescue.
Is something that we take a lot of pride in. If we can help bring not only funds to them, but recognition and let people know that there are some options out here, that you could just be a foster home and make a difference in a dog's life for a few weeks or a month and help them find their forever home.
And that's okay with Wade.
When they leave the foster home and you see them flourish even more in their adoptive homes, it's just, your heart just grows and you can't wait to work with the next one.
In Sioux Falls, Travis Fossing, KELOLAND News.
Oh, good stuff there. Anytime you can involve sports and dogs, you know, that's fun, right?
Who doesn't love supporting the pups?
Yeah, right. So it's in 19 years now. And again, you know, we ask them all the time, like, did you ever see it getting this big? And they're like, no, these wiener dog races, we did not expect to need heats each period so you could have enough dogs because that many people are wanting to participate.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty cool thing to watch them run across the ice. And last year we saw 6-2 Wiener Dogs win. The record's really good on Wiener Dog Night. And with that, not only that, but they had a goalie fight too to start the third period. There was a lot of tension out of the second period that ended right as the period ended. And so when the third period started, the first scuffle, the goalies had kind of already made the plan, like, hey, we're going to end this. And I mean, there was over 10,000 fans there. So they said, all right, let's put on a show
Just
too.
explodes. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just want to do that. It's dangerous in multiple facets. One, for the fights, and two, because you might go home with a new furry friend.
Yeah,
So.
right? So, yeah, I mean, go on over. You can bid on the jerseys. That money goes to a good cause. You can maybe even find a dog that you want to rescue from Dakota Dachshund. I mean,
Yeah.
why not? There's a good combination. You know, Kelsey likes dogs and
I was
big
gonna say,
hockey
yeah.
player. Yeah, it'd be a dangerous
the
night
perfect
for her.
night. Yeah, no, awesome.
Well, we're going to talk with Jordan DeSmit, who had a good story about Sioux Falls schools, metro area schools that will be playing some new opponents. We'll have that story coming up next. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access. We said we had a special guest joining us. It's Jordan DeSmit. And Jordan joining us here at the KELOLAND Plus desk. Jordan, you had a really interesting story that kind of, I had heard some talking about it for the last couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden, boom, there it was. And South Dakota High School Activities Association working with Nebraska's Activities Association. And we're going to have cross-state battles this year in the state's biggest classes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think it'll be a good measuring stick for South Dakota high school football because they're playing some big schools and some schools down in the Omaha area that are no joke.
Yeah, and they are not. Let's listen to Jordan's story that he did on Wednesday. Then we can get a little more thoughts out of him as well.
The 5 border battle matchups will span from August to October. SDHSAA Executive Director Dan Swarta says it was part of a collaboration with the Nebraska School Activities Association.
What it took was a lot of communication and a lot of planning ahead of time, and we were thankful we were able to make it happen.
The matchups include Brandon Valley and Sioux Falls, Washington going on the road. The Lynx will take on Bellevue West, and the Warriors will face Millard North. Lincoln, Jefferson, and Harrisburg will each host Omaha schools. The Patriots will play Omaha Central, the Cavaliers will welcome Omaha Westview, and the Tigers are set to host Omaha North.
They should be fairly similar in terms of ability. I think it'll be good matchups.
Brandon Valley is the defending Class 11 AAA state champion. Head coach Matt Christensen is looking forward to bringing his team to a new environment.
I'm excited about it as a coach because I'm just out for new experiences for the kids and the community. I know we'll have a ton of fans go down there and pack our side and give us all the support we can get.
Christensen also says his team is up for the challenge against what he expects to be a tough Bellevue West team.
They know to play great football and they understand it, and But we're happy to prove ourselves and prove that we can play good football with them.
He's also rooting for the other South Dakota schools playing out-of-state competition.
We coaches, we want to represent South Dakota really well. We want to represent our own communities well.
Jordan DeSmit, KELOLAND News.
Well, good stuff there, Jordan, trying to explain how this is coming about. And I think there's a lot of excitement. You know, I seen each team and each coach kind of tweeting about it, you know, yesterday. I think there's a lot of excitement around this. And it sure seemed that way. You know, Dan Swartos and Matt Christensen got back right to you and said, yeah, we'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think with these 11 AAA schools, I think they're used to just playing the same teams year after year after year. So it's going to give them a chance to go out and experience a new environment and play someone new. I think that's part of what definitely excites them.
Well, and it'll be something new for us to cover, too. You know, these are teams that we're not used to seeing. And it's kind of replacing some of this 11 AA competition playing these Metro teams because, you know, we've seen those games and, you know, some of the small schools aren't even playing their starters at times because their starters were getting hurt or something because they didn't have the amount of players that the big schools do. And so I feel like, you know, competition-wise, they think it'll be even, but it'll also give the AA teams chances to play more AA teams, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the AAA teams that aren't playing in these Omaha games, they're probably going to have to put in a AA team on their schedule. But I think this definitely does give a relief to some AA teams to not have to worry about a AAA team on their schedule.
Right, as many. So that'll be kind of fun. Kelsey, it'll be something to look forward to. I don't know if Omaha is on our trip schedule next year, but
I'd be very content visiting Omaha. I think it also brings hopefully some more competitive games. I mean,
it could.
More than we see in cross class,
Mm-hmm.
Especially with those
That's true.
dominant like Brandon Valley, Lincoln.
Yeah, they
those
kind
games,
of rolled past those
yes,
games. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of really competitive teams up in Omaha. I think it's up.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a big market down there, bigger than Sioux Falls. So this is going to be a
direction,
good
but yeah.
challenge. I'm talking just challenge though too from the market standpoint. It's a big group down there. We'll see how they do against all of that. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access. Wrapping up today's show with some what's coming up tonight on KELOLAND Sports. You got women's and men's USF versus Concordia St. Paul. Same situation. Augustana hosting a couple of good Minnesota State teams. There'll be some challenges for both the Vikings and Cougars tonight. And then we'll also have high school basketball highlights. Sioux Falls Christian hosting Western Christian in what should be a good contest there. Well, it's been another busy show, and we thank you for tuning in and watching. And we'll see you back here with our next show on Friday.
Bye, guys.